So, DNA just released, and I'm pretty sure I don't have to say it, there's been a lot of discussion about the game. Some people like it, a lot of people hate it, and some people are just using it as another comparison point to shit on other games, because of course they are. That being said, a lot of people are, needless to say, kinda disappointed. Whether the expectations were a little too high and unrealistic, that could be a whole separate conversation. The bottom line is that there's much to be desired. I've kind of scoped the seed a bit, and while opinions are kind of scattered, a lot of them do kind of agree with the idea that the game is undercooked. I don't really know how I feel about that, to be honest. On one hand, I get where they're coming from. The criticisms are pretty valid, but a part of me also just doesn't see it that way. I've given the game a decent amount of time, gotten to the higher levels, and played through the story while also took a peek into the endgame loop. I really wanted to make sure I knew what I was talking about before I said anything. So, here we go. Let me address the elephant in the room. The launch was pretty bad. Yo, it's just dog shit. Like, I mean, I got people on my timeline saying they were reminded of WoW 1.0. Like, that bad. Optimization issues everywhere. Mobile version, just straight dog ass. Constant booting from the game or crashes, you name it. This game just did not want to work for a lot of people. Like, it was bad. Seeing everyone compared to WoW 1.0 was genuinely hilarious to me. But also kind of weird because I didn't really deal with a lot of these issues. That being said, I did have my fair share of issues. For the most part, I didn't have those bugs. I had maybe like one network boot that kind of just fixed itself, one freeze in the cutscene, some wonkiness, but overall, the game has been running almost perfectly for me on the highest settings. But I'm also self-aware enough to know that not everyone has like the same specs or like gear and like all that shit. So that's out the window. That being said, the more I played, the more issues I ran into with this game. It was kind of fucking insane. Cutscenes were super laggy and choppy. There's like a really rare memory leakage issue where my fucking 64 gigs of RAM were apparently used at 99%. Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. It's a little weird for me to talk about these issues because I didn't experience the same thing that other people did. But I'm gonna just take my friends and the vast majority's word for it and say this game got some pretty bad kinks to iron out. Hero Games and Pain Studio have already started rolling out updates and apologies, which is a good sign, and shows good communication, which is very important when you have a launch like this. Now with that aside, I have to say that in a technical and presentation sense, the game is actually really nice, especially the UI. I'm going to use WoW as a reference point a lot, because that's the gacha that I currently have the most experience with. So when I tell you that WoW's UI is still very much gives mobile game, I hope you get what I mean. While DNA's UI isn't revolutionary, it's a sleek UI that I feel explains itself relatively well and looks good while doing it. As for gameplay, well, it's anime Warframe for a reason. If you've played Warframe or any Musou game or even Dynasty Warrior, you'll find yourself right at home with the hack and slash gameplay. Most of the time you'll be mowing down mobs and fighting a boss at the end of the stage. You have a variety of weapons and guns and you can customize any and every character to your liking. Of course, the characters have a preferred loadout, but if you want to play a little pig girl with a big ass scythe and grenade launchers, you can go right ahead. Characters have unique passives and skills of course, and they all utilize this resource meter called sanity. It's just your MP bar. Don't overcomplicate it, your abilities have cost and your bar goes down when you use them, that's it. And of course, since the combat is heavily inspired by Warframe, you also have your iconic Warframe movement. You have your double jumps, wall climbing, jumping, air dashing, helix jumps, you get the gist. You even have the aim glide, which probably works as intended, but that kind of worries me. I will say there's something a little off. The movement doesn't feel as smooth as it should be, and there is some jankiness. Like, climbing walls is harder than it really should be. Helix jumps don't feel as dynamic as you think, and if I'm gonna be honest, the combat doesn't feel as satisfying as it could. I know that with Musou games, the satisfaction is from wiping out hordes instantly, but I don't know if it's a visual feedback thing, or an audio feedback thing, or even a character thing, but combat just doesn't feel good. Listen, one of my favorite Musou games from childhood is Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Impact on the PSP. I really hope I didn't age myself with that. But even though it was a Muso game, hitting the hordes of enemies felt good. And after playing through the most recent Dynasty Warriors demo again, fuck you Lubu, cutting down enemies also feels good there. I don't know, they should look into it. Maybe do what Mega Man Zero did and add like a little slicing effect or something. That shit goes hard as Oh, and one more thing they borrowed from Warframe, probably the thing that really puts this game on a lot of people's radar, there is no gacha for characters. You could fully grind for every character and weapon in the game. The gacha is primarily focused on the cosmetics, and there's definitely a lot to do with cosmetics. The story is aight. For a 1.0 story, it could be worse. I will say it did feel a little aimless for a while, but I feel like that just kind of comes with the territory of a 1.0 story. All the animated cutscenes are really good. I feel that DNA does the Hoyoverse thing where everything is overtly spelled out or told to me rather than actually showing me. Characters will stand around talking about every little detail of whatever plan is being concocted. We'd go on long tangents of backstory that's meant to develop characters but doesn't feel as effective since it feels like I'm being read a children's book. And coupled with cutscenes that lead into small gameplay gaps where you're just going from point A to point B, the story feels like a slog at times. Like, I'm sorry, but when I sit down to play a game for an hour or two, I can only endure so much standing around and talking. Now with that being said, I'll give props to the game for trying to cover more nuanced topics. While again, it's still a gacha, so it's nothing revolutionary, but it still is an interesting story and concept. Just needs to be executed a little better, in my honest opinion. Something that I wanted to talk about is the criticism that the world feels empty. At first I was really confused by what they meant because I actually thought the world felt insanely lived in. When I entered, not Belobog, I don't remember the name, I'll put it on the video. I was instantly drawn in by the NPCs scattered all around the town. From the Charon guard with the identity crisis, to the fruit stand owner who has a little crush on the clothing store girl, to the NPC with really freakishly poetic students. I genuinely have never had so much fun talking to NPCs in a gacha game before. What really makes this engaging is the way they implemented the D&D aspect of having to pass checks. If you want to access more dialogue or learn deeper things about an NPC, you'll have to roll a set of dice and score at or above a certain number. Your chances improve depending on how high your personality traits are, and you improve that by choosing specific options. Oh my god, we finally have a gacha where the response I choose actually matters. By the gods, it is possible. I never want to hear that programming. That would be too much work ever again. So yeah, that's really fun, and as an avid Baldur's Gate 3 enjoyer, this brought a smile to my face. So I was really confused by what people meant by the world felt empty, until I walked outside of town and realized how much of a barren wasteland it is. Yeah, walking outside of the town in the more dangerous areas kinda blows ass. Most enemies are scattered too far to even really matter. There's rarely anything happening, if anything at all, and there isn't really anything interesting to see on the map either. Part of this I feel is because of the initial hub world. An Arctic industrial city is a cool visual because of the barren wasteland that is surrounding the bustling and alive city. So while everything in the city is interesting, everything around, not so much. HSR has a similar first main world. Not the space station, I'm not talking about the space station. But because open world traversal isn't the main focus, HSR can get away with the locale, and they also focus on making majority of the events occur in Belobog. Even in Wuwa, if we exclude the puzzles, the elite bosses, the instance dungeons, there were a lot of point of interest that add personality and flair to the area. DNA doesn't really have much of that, in my honest opinion. If we're gonna talk about the grind game, listen, if you like grinding, this is the game for you. If you like grinding in Warframe, you'll probably like grinding in this. It's just that simple. If you don't like grinding, if you don't like that playstyle, if you don't like the repetition of it, you won't enjoy this game as much as you were probably hoping you would. That's just the truth of it, especially when a lot of the game modes are really directly ripped from Warframe. It takes the name Anime Warframe and fucking nails it on the head. So with all the basics out the way, I guess all that's left to answer is whether I like the game and would recommend it. Honestly, I don't think I would. In the beginning of the video, I talked about people saying it's undercooked, and I didn't really agree. And that's because In my eyes, there is mostly a presentable product, and by all means is a game that works. Sometimes. But I think the issue that DNA really has is that it feels soulless. In my opinion, the game has a serious identity issue. There's never a moment where I'm truly sitting here thinking, I'm playing Duet Night Abyss. In combat and dungeon crawling, hell, even setting up my wedges, I feel like I'm just playing Warframe. In the town areas, I'm playing a watered down Baldur's Gate. In the overworld, I'm playing Pokemon? No, like, deadass, the fact that these things are called Genimons was already a dead giveaway, but the whole snacking thing that has 3 ticks to catch them, it's just Pokeballs. Even a good majority of the characters feel like they lack their own sauce. While there are some cool designs, more often than not, you're going to be looking at characters and the first thought is going to be, yo, it's blank from blank, rather than, oh, that's a cool design. Oh, but every game is like that now. Listen, I'm not denying that games can be inspired by other games. The main game I cover was inspired by Genshin, which was inspired by Breath of the Wild, which was inspired by every open world survival game in the world. But each of those games have a specific element and quality that holds enough weight to separate themselves from other games. DNA feels like a soulless husk of a game that was made by the haphazard mishmashing of other games. Ironically enough, the game called DNA, at least to me, is devoid of any life or any creative signature. And sure, we can argue that it's a more accessible game than its counterparts, but I'd argue that point with the fact that Warframe itself is free and always has been, and every element that I've heard people praise about DNA is in or from Warframe. And yeah, sure, you could say Warframe isn't on mobile, but let's be so fucking for real, DNA is barely working on phone, so throw that argument out the window. The only difference is that DNA has the anime waifu aesthetic, which honestly, that's big enough of a reason for people to play it. I don't want the takeaway of this video to be that I hate the game. I don't hate the game, and I do see the potential the game has. This game can be really fun, and I really wanted to see it flourish. And if people are content with the game, more power to you. Play what you want, brother. I ain't yucking your yum. But I think that Hero Studios needs to circle back and figure out what they want this game to be. Not gonna lie, this kind of has me worried about all other upcoming games like Ananta and NTE. I already was feeling some gacha fatigue with all of them feeling and looking the same, which you can check out in this video wherever I'm pointing there. But considering Ananta is literally the fusion dance of every video game in the world, I'm worried it's gonna have the same feeling. Will it actually be its own thing and fun, or will it just be a compilation of undercooked and watered down gameplay elements? But that's my honest opinion so far. I mean, I'm still going to try it out. I'm still going to give it more time just to see where I fully stand. But as of right now, it's not the most fun game for me. But if you guys feel differently, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know if you like the game. Let me know if you don't like the game. Let me know what your experience has been overall. And while you're down there, hit the like button and hit that subscribe button with the notification bell so you get a notification every single time I upload. And yeah, follow me on Twitch. I be streaming. I think that's it. Bye bye.